on schedule too, which is helpful. And maybe I skipped over that slide. Yeah, project's on schedule, completion of spring 2024. Any questions on that? Perfect. Okay. We will move on to the next item on the agenda then, which is Chief of Police Mike McNeely. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Board. You should have received a letter from me and some quotes that came in for the replacement of a police vehicle. I outlined in that letter that the vehicle was deemed no longer usable by our insurance company, and we're looking to replace that vehicle. I kind of walked you through the process of how and why we selected what we did as a replacement vehicle. And what I am asking of you tonight is to approve the purchase of a 2023 Chevy Tahoe SSV from Kelly Chevrolet and approve the expenditures needed to outfit the same vehicle and the necessary equipment. If the City Council approves an additional appropriation out of the Public Safety Fund to cover the purchases. Currently, insurance has the vehicle that was total valued at $19,000. I outlined in my letter that we felt that was too low, so we've reached out. They are reworking that, and we believe it is going to be a higher amount that they come back with.
Well, accidents happen and you can't foresee that, so provided, I mean, it looks like we need this, so provided the council, with the council approval, I would move approval, purchase, subject to the council's additional appropriation being provided.
I would second that motion.
Okay. Any further questions for the chief on that?
Question, how much was the additional amount to outfit the vehicle? Was that?
I don't have quotes back. I have inquiries into our outfitting company for lights and sirens and all that, and a command box to go in the back, but nobody has gotten back with me yet.
Can any of that be salvaged off the other vehicle?
No, because it's a different model.
Okay.
The radio possibly, but the siren got damaged during the incident, and the lights might get a couple that we could use.
Do you have estimates though? I mean, you need to have an estimate in order to give the council at least a range in terms of.
So I talked to our outfitter today. He is still working the quote. The builder has been on vacation and actually just came back yesterday, and so he's trying to get that all together. I don't have an actual amount yet, but I do have funds available in our vehicle purchase line for the vehicles that I'm purchasing later this year when they're finished. We've already committed those, but between now and then I should have that amount and I can come back for the additional appropriation then.
What was the process in recognizing that the insurance company wasn't paying what they should?
Rodney, could you be sure that you speak into the mic too?
So the process in recognizing the insurance wasn't paying, I basically just went on to Kelly Blue Book and put in the vehicle, make, model, the mileage, and the condition. And when I reached back out to the insurance, and they said, well, yeah, that's what a vehicle in poor condition would be. And I said, well, it wasn't in poor condition when it was wrecked, and so that's why they're reconfiguring it.
Good job.
Motion's been made by Glenn, second by Rodney. Any further questions or comments on that? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second thing, I want to formally invite you and anyone who hears or can see this meeting to our National Night Out on August 17th at 5 p.m. at North Park. We have lots of festivities that'll be going on, demonstrations by our police and fire departments. REMC is going to do a live wire demonstration as well. There'll be music, there'll be food, there'll be games for the kids. National Guard's bringing in a big blow-up obstacle course. We got a couple helicopters that are going to be flying in again. So if you have time to make it, please do. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Assistant Fire Chief David Roselle, the approval of a conditional offer. Chief, while you're making your way up, Chief Sturmer is actually in Florida with the fire truck build company doing their first meeting. So good evening, Assistant Chief. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. So I'm here at the request of the chief to request that formal conditional offer of employment for the position of a recruit firefighter be offered to candidate number 3.
Board, anything on that? If not, motion to approve as presented.
So moved. Second.
Motion been made by Glenn, seconded by Rodney. Anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Oh.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Real
Thank
quick,
you.
just one, so we have you're taking applications now through September 1st?
Yes.
Right? Do we have any idea when we may do like a testing after that, or do we have dates planned for that?
They do have the dates planned. They're listed in the application.
Okay.
But I'm not sure what the dates are.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Utilities Manager Donna Lecker with a sewer adjustment request. Good evening, Donna.
Good evening. I have a request for a sewer adjustment of account 26-788-30 in the amount of $1,693.38. It was an underground leak, a 2-month bill. This customer is on rural water, and we get our readings from them to bill for sewer.
So that's the reason that it's been so far in arrears. I mean, I think am I understanding that it was like December, January or something like that?
It is.
Yeah,
It was-
so
Go
it's
ahead.
just now coming to our attention because of the delay between rural water and here and customer?
In their final bill, it's completely finalized out, they moved out, and then when they got their final bill, that's when they requested it. So,
And we're
it
sure,
is, they did pay their amount, which was $467.16.
And this is only for the sewer, just for point of clarification. We don't do
Yes.
water reductions because the product was lost.
That is,
But we
that is
do do
correct.
sewer because we did not treat that.
That is correct.
Okay. This individual is in the city on sewer, which is why they pay it, but they get their water through rural water.
That is correct.
Do you have any concerns?
No.
Okay.
And
Make a motion, we approve.
it's not terribly uncommon that they do operate in the arrears. This is a little bit more extreme than
This
normal.
is extreme, yes. Just from them notifying us once they got their bill, that kind of thing, but, yeah.
and this is per policy, as you said, as
Yes,
the mayor
sir.
clarified in terms of what we're actually, trying to think of the word, eliminating or reducing the bill.
We did not incur the cost to treat
Right,
this.
I understand,
Yes.
I know that, yeah. So, yes, I would second the motion.
Motion's been made by Jamie, second by Glenn. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thanks, Donna.
Thank you.
Up next, Zeke Smith is here, wastewater superintendent, with a couple different items. He also has a guest with us. Zeke, if you'd please introduce him.
Good evening, Board. Mayor, a few things on my agenda. We'll start with the South Vine Street update. I've got Bryce Farman here from Strand Associates. He's going to give you a quick rundown, update on kind of where we're at with that, then I'll move on to other items once he's finished up. So.
Sure. So, yeah, like Zeke said, I'm Bryce Ferdinand with Strand Associates. We were the engineer for the project. Basically, along South Vine Street, the project basically consists of approximately 500 feet of new sewer pipe to replace the existing sewer pipe along that street that is undersized. It does consist of work within the NDOT right-of-way, so that's a little nuance of the project as well. But we had bids, or a bid opening for the project last Thursday. We received one bid for the project that was quite a bit higher than our estimated cost from an engineer's perspective. And at this point, I think we're kind of taking that under advisement and looking to see if there's other options available going forward.
Yeah. So we got one contractor showed up at the bid meeting. Just kind of reiterate, we opened bids that day, it came back significantly elevated per the engineer's specs and estimated cost, and it was a lot higher, so we're thinking, just in a good faith effort, maybe it would make sense to project this out longer, so we're looking at potentially having this work done potentially in the spring, and giving a longer time frame in which these contractors can schedule out farther in an effort to hopefully get back a lower bid, as well as recruit maybe other contractors, advertise better, maybe educate more so to get other people involved. So just an effort to have more competitive bids at the end of the day. So.
One thing that we had talked about, it was nearly double the engineer's estimate, right? So the
Literally double.
discussion surrounding that.
That's the whole reason why we're
Right.
literally double. So maybe it's projected out farther in the spring, which will give them more time to schedule, that it may, garner a lower cost, torque off the bid at the end of the day. So.
I guess I'd just like to ask Chris if there were any issues with that process. I mean, if we did open bids or we took bids and now we've got a bid, I know we've had some of those discussions before. So if we're changing the scope of the project now after that, does that?
While you're thinking about that, I think the intention would be that we would re-advertise, we would start over.
Yeah, I think if you, and that would be my only caveat, is we couldn't simply award it to someone else. But if we simply say we're not necessarily moving forward with any of the bids right now, and we're going to re-advertise and reassess, particularly in light of the somewhat fluctuating cost of construction and things like that, I don't think it's going to be problematic that we put it out there, and even though we did get a bid, it sounds like it was well outside the scope of what we were anticipating, cost-wise.
Aren't we, do we not have the right to reject all bids?
You do.
Yeah,
You
so,
do.
I mean, I think.
Yeah, and I don't even think we have to go, so there's both a generalized outright ability to reject all bids, there's also a possibility to determine all bids to be non-conforming. Obviously, I don't think we're going to say that these were non-conforming bids, we're just going to say that essentially we're not proceeding with the project that was noticed, and no one was awarded the bid. And I think that's really kind of the key, Jamie, is that we're not awarding it to somebody else, we're not going out and finding somebody different to do it, we're saying, look, we're not accepting any of these bids because they're all over the cost of what we're gonna do, so we're gonna move forward with reassessing our project scope, is the way I think the way I'm certain that Strand would put it out there in the world of what we were doing. Yeah.
Just a question, was there any conversation with the contractor bid made about why it was higher? Or I don't know if that's even allowed.
Yes, but they typically don't really go into much detail when you do ask those types of questions, because it was their bid, and the reasoning, they aren't really privy to provide that.
Was it a company the city had worked with before?
So, yeah, I meant to mention that. Dave O'Mara was the contractor. And we reached out to a couple of the other contractors that we had heard about after we advertised that we were anticipating having them bid on the project, and the reasonings for why they didn't submit a bid. And they were more so to do with the timeline of the project, and just some paperwork type stuff to where it wasn't something that they weren't capable of doing or not capable of even submitting a bid. It just didn't work out from a time perspective.
Well, the NDOT right-of-way tends to scoop some. There's a maintenance of traffic plan that has to be followed, and it can be quite extensive. So that does spook some people because of that. So.
And this was an upgrade, and not necessarily trying to create or correct the immediate problem. We're looking at more of an upgrade for the future, right?
Correct.
Okay. So timing can be pushed back further.
Yes. So we currently that line is, essentially it's a 4-inch main that runs down South Vine Street, and we're looking to upgrade that to an 8-inch. So what it is, it's a little extra effort for us to flush that weekly, but we have been doing that for some years. So we can continue to do that. There isn't a lot of flow on that street, so it tends to be problematic for plugging and, kind of backing up. So what we do now, it's on a maintenance plan once a week. We flush it every Monday morning to keep that moving. And we'll just continue that until we get closer to completing this project, so.
Any other questions for Zeke or?
Do we need to actually formally then reject the bid?
I would entertain a motion to reject all bids submitted for this project as advertised. Fair.
So moved.
Motion been made by Lindsay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rodney. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, Zeke, update on Franklin Street. This is a little bit odd in that it was an emergency repair
Yeah.
done, but some information to share.
Sure. So last month on North Franklin Street, at the intersection of North Franklin and Hendricks, there was a manhole there. It's hard to back up on us. We attempted a couple spot repairs in the weeks kind of leading up to that. It did alleviate some pressure, but the manhole continued to elevate. So we did some camera work and saw it was pretty well full of roots. So I put out some quotes to have that line repaired, 130 feet of that on North Franklin leading into the intersection with Hendricks. I got back 4 quotes. We did go with O'Mara, which was the lowest quote, and they had projected 3 days to complete that repair. They started on it on a Monday morning. They ended, I think it was 10 days later as far as with the asphalt. So that work was completed, and it is back to normal operating conditions, and that manhole is no longer backing up and causing us problems. So something that we kind of had to deal with on the spot, unfortunately.
We did get quotes, I guess is the right way, because it ended up being under the $50,000 cap.
We got 4 quotes, yeah.
Right, but we weren't really sure where it was going to fall, so we did reach out. We got a lot of interest from that one.
A lot of interest for that
But
one,
not
yeah.
for Vine
But
Street.
it's, yeah. But there's no NDOT right away, so that tends to make it a little easier, so.
So that's, I mean, that was something that was kind of in the middle of town. Obviously, it was 4th of July. Our
During the
crews,
parade.
yeah, our crews were out there on the 4th of July, much appreciated.
All day long, yeah.
And then we had a couple of, and then we kind of did 3. So
Yeah,
it's kind of a big project, but it was
Yeah, we-
one of those issues that kind of just popped up.
yeah, it kind of reared its ugly head, but we got it taken care of, so back to normal operating conditions.
Questions for Zeke on that? I just wanted to be sure everybody was aware that that's what had happened there. Okay, equipment building.
Final one for me this evening. So as you guys know, I'm looking to get an equipment building built at the wastewater treatment plant. Currently, we have a couple sludge trucks that sit outside, a camera truck, a crane truck, and multiple pieces of equipment that sit out in the weather kind of year-round. It's kind of problematic for us. In fact, when it's cold, we have to rotate vehicles around to keep the ones inside where it's actually insulated and heated, just in case we have to use them in emergency situations. So we kind of play that game every winter with what truck we may have to use and when it be ready. So looking to get a building built down there to kind of keep us from having to do that. I did get this quoted out, sent it out. I was working with Strand Engineering as well. We got back 3 quotes from Homan, Graber, and Morton Buildings. Homan came back with the lowest quote at $142,500, and I'm looking to get approval to go forward with Homan on completing the build of our future equipment building at the wastewater treatment plant. This is in budget.
I do see at the bottom of the quote for Homan, it talks about items that are not included. The 2 higher cost quotes, do those include, is there any difference in what those quotes include?
It's apples to apples. We did have Homan re-quote this to take out the concrete, just in case the quality of the building maybe isn't, what if we're dissatisfied, we would have a opportunity to let someone else do, the concrete finish work.
Okay, okay.
So,
And you obviously have a site plan for this, and this is in your capital, this is in the capital budget for sewer.
this is in budget, yes. Yeah, the site's gonna be pretty much directly east of our router building. It's not gonna link up next to a router building, but it's gonna be within probably about 12 feet. So we can keep enough width there with asphalt to go ahead and drive around. We do have trucks that go back there occasionally and deliver chemicals, so we didn't want to disrupt that by linking those together, but we do have a place, yeah.
Does this building have any amenities?
Not at the moment. It's kind of bare bones to get it where it is so we can get it built this year. At some point, I do plan on probably adding power, potentially, some other amenities, but right now we need to get a building up and insulated to keep our equipment in, so that's the focus in the moment. But maybe at some point next year, potentially, it would have other things, but not now. I just don't think there's time this year to get it done.
Building for the future.
It is.
Okay.
It's a building for the future, yeah. And to hold our new slush truck, which should be here in late October, so.
Any other questions for Zeke? If not, would entertain a motion to approve the bid from Holman for the building. Motion's been made by Lindsay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Glenn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Okay, thanks, Zeke.
Thanks, guys.
Up next, City Engineer Ron May with an agreement with Strand for the design standards.
Good evening. The city has a set of City of Greensburg Design Standards Manual. It was originally drafted, I think, like 2003. It was updated sometime subsequent to that, maybe 2007. All this is before my time with the city. Even in 2007, it's now nearly 17 years out of date. Not out of date, but since it's been in place. The involved department heads have put our heads together and talked about the necessity of updating these standards. We did invite proposals from 8 of our consulting engineering partners that regularly work for the city. From that, we received 4 proposals. The involved department heads sat down and made a selection based on QBS concept, quality-based selection concept. The best proposal we received was from Strand Associates. So I am here this evening asking for approval of that contract. The Water Board met last week. This was presented to them, and they approved their share, which was $20,500. The street department has 22, stormwater has 17,000, and wastewater 20,500. So I suppose technically we're asking for your approval of the stormwater, wastewater, and street department component. One of the thoughts that we're trying to work towards in this process is get somewhat away from having our own standards book and using industry accepted standards like 10 state standards does a lot with water and wastewater. The American Water Works Association has standards for water systems. NDOT has a lot of information for streets. And the more we can use those, the more we will somewhat automatically stay up to date, because those organizations are always working on their standards to modernize them.
Where's the money budgeted to cover those?
Well, we have our stormwater utility covering that portion.
Okay.
I think wastewater has money in their budget for their share. They don't have a budget, excuse me, in their capital plan or in their rate studies. And then the transportation component, we will find out of the street department budget.
So, I understand I think I understand what you're attempting to do. But if we're utilizing many of the standards that are out there, in NDOT, for example, and the others that you mentioned, why does it cost $80,000 to compile that?
Anytime you use a consulting service, it's all about labor. It's their time in sorting through those other agencies' standards. finding the ones applicable to the city. Some of the ones applicable to the city will be ones we prepare as minimum standards. Simple example would be maybe a minimum pavement section for a street. For people coming to us wanting to develop streets that are willing to perform an engineering study, a pavement design, they may be able to get a different section, but it would be based on that engineering analysis. So we probably want to prepare minimum standards. Yes, sir.
As part of this contract, since the standards do change,
Mm-hmm.
will they be privy to sharing that with us during the year? We don't have to pay for that information?
We
Or
would
don't
not pay
wait?
for that. We have in-house the ability to see what those other people are doing to their standards. So we can keep an eye on it as it occurs kind of organically.
So does this cost include then the publication of the standards?
I would say yes, but publication probably is electronic.
Yeah, I would think so, but like you have a text there or
We have a
a manual
printed
there.
Manual.
Will there
Because
be
it
others?
changed Primarily. I'm
Please?
sorry. Would there be other?
Will there be something like that produced in addition to electronic?
I think we can do that, yeah.
I don't know that I need it, I'm just asking whether that's something that's, I know electronic is what people will be using, but sometimes it's good to have something that you can reference in front of somebody who's, rather than having them
One of the
on your, in your chair looking at your own set of.
One of the interesting things about the standards, they're applicable to kind of specific situations. Thinking that somebody worrying about designing a street doesn't care, may not care about installing a water main. So it's probably easier in this day and age to be able to just pull out the pieces that you need rather than have the whole book.
Understand.
What does the process look for you right now in real time, trying to pull out these standards? Or do we even have access to them right now?
We certainly have access to NDOT. Rick, are we members of EWWA?
Yes.
So we have access to those standards. 10 state are published standards.
Just a matter of knowing which standard
Yeah.
to locate, and that could be the tricky piece, but
But what we will likely do, to Jamie's point, is instead of saying, this is how you bed a water main, it will say per AWWA standard, reference the section, so that's where we would direct our developers or our constructors, where we would direct them to look as to how we want that activity performed.
Now I'm getting a better understanding of what actually we're asking them to do.
Because part of our problem
Yeah.
now is that book governs here,
Mhm.
but it's 2007
Yeah.
engineering.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but what I was thinking is we were gonna completely, but they are out there referencing all those to get it for,
To fit our
I'm better.
application.
Now I can get a little bit better sense of the cost.
And what we could-
Although I still think it's,
Well, we could just adopt these other standards in a whole. Some of them won't be applicable to us. We want to make it usable for the people that use it. It's a little bit of a balancing act there.
I'm still confused about if things change 2 years from now, if they don't let us know that it's changed, are we using information that is old?
no, not if we reference that standard.
Right.
Because if they make changes to that standard, we're still referencing the standard that they changed.
And then the end user will look in our standards and it will say per whatever, AWWA, yeah. And they will go to that source and find the information they need. And then we don't fall behind as we have over the last 17, 16 years.
My only question, I guess, is, I'm kind of with Glenn. Well, one, have they done this for other communities? And if they have, then 80,000 seems awful steep to recreate something they've already done. Or if they have done this for other communities, then are we better working with them than paying $80,000 to?
They had the most
recreate with it?
impressive proposal to us of the four that we got. I don't find it such an extreme amount.
I see the need, and I concur with the need. I know that you get what you pay for, so generally.
You don't get more.
And if y'all have reviewed the others and you find this one, and we've worked with Strand before,
Yeah.
I mean, I would think that they would want to continue having our business, that they wouldn't try to
Their initial.
take advantage of the situation, so.
Their initial fee proposal to us was more. We had a discussion about that, and they came back with this.
Can we go back one more time?
I'm sorry?
Can we go back one more time?
So, the rule about professional services and studies, how much do you get? You get 85% of what you pay. The other 15% is their profit margin. Sure, we can lower the fee, we get less for it.
Sounds like it's a consultant service that's needed, and it will keep us in compliance in the future with different projects. So I think it's necessary. I know it's not ideal, thinking about the extra cost, but it sounds like it's necessary for the betterment of our infrastructure. So I'll set the motion to approve.
I will second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further questions or comments for Ron? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you.
The only other item on our agenda this evening is heavy trash will be August 21st through the 25th. I would encourage everyone to continue to open your utility statements. Those are coming with flyers that have information in August, so please open those. The information about what is and what is not heavy trash is not changing for August. We made a couple changes last summer, and those worked out well. They worked well for the spring. We saw a significant reduction in volume, so our teams will be back out the 21st through the 25th, and we'll be heavy trash 2.0 for 2023 will be over. Anything else on that, Mark? Okay.
Well.
You all should have received a copy of your claims. Take a motion to approve those as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? If nothing else, take a motion to adjourn. Glenn has silently made a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Thanks, everyone. See you in a month.